Hi, Judd. Welcome to the Quantum Alchemist Master Podcast. I'm very excited to have you here. Welcome.
Hi, Rosalia. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited too about this.
My pleasure. And we were just speaking before he got on about the sign right behind him. And I know it's not typical to start the podcast speaking about that, but it really caught my attention about the wonderful synchronicities and miracles we get to experience every single day in our lives if we really become hyper aware of how everything is interconnected. Would you mind before you go into your story and your hero's journey to tell us about that real quick?
Yeah. So these signs, I just ended up I started doing the coaching stuff, you know, and then one of the dudes that I grew up with, and he ends up owning the machine shop. They make all of the signs around town here, Bloomington Normal area, and the breweries, law offices, really nice signs and that. And he supported what I was doing, and he's just like, "Hey, let me make your signs for you and stuff for your podcast." And we hadn't talked, and it had been, I mean, years since we talked too, you know, and should cost a lot more than I paid for them,
The
a lot.
reason the
Yeah.
reason I bring light to that is because it has to do with everything else that we do in life, but this is a beautiful example of that.
Hmm.
When we make the decision to take that first step, whether there's uncertainty, there's fear, we don't have the
Oh yeah.
resources at that time, somehow something greater than ourselves starts to provide, and the bridge begins to appear as you take the step, even if
Yeah.
it feels like you're fucking up all the time. Right.
Yeah. It's true though.
So I just wanted to bring light to that, and thank you for sharing that story. The floor is all yours, because as the listeners might have noticed, we have changed our ways of doing the podcast. It's no longer long form. We've kind of kept it on the short form of that, but in exchange, we have provided you now with free access to master classes that you can access, especially if you can't afford coaching, if it's or if you just can't invest in it right now and just want to learn first and then jump the gun on whatever coach resonates with you, that's cool too. You have them there available to you, and it's going to serve you in some way. So take the floor.
All right. So I was a mechanic for 20 years before I started doing this. And I wasn't passionate about it. It was just something that I did, you know, something that I really didn't care about, but I learned it to make a paycheck, right? And then I just wasn't fulfilled in life. I was going through a divorce, all this stuff, everything was changing in my life. So then it was just like, okay, got the opportunity to do literally whatever I want at this point, you know, without anybody saying anything or really me giving a shit about what anyone else is saying, because I've got no one to answer to at that point, right? And so going back though, I remember, a ton of anxiety throughout that, right? But then all these supportive signs and synchronicities literally everywhere, all around me, you know, stuff that you can't explain, numbers coming out of nowhere, people that you meet, you know, um, guides, like getting it more and more into meditations and breath work and doing all that stuff. And you easily connect. The better that you take care, even though you're going through a whole bunch of shit, you know, like the better that you take care of yourself physically and mentally, like it makes you grow spiritually. It's much easier, much easier to connect than and pay attention, and acknowledge what's actually going on. And and feeling these energies about you. You know what I mean? And so then it made it easier for me to let go and just move forward with what I wanted to do. Even though I was shit, I'll be honest, like I'm still scared you know, but it's like I know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It's just like, you just it's just what it is. It's overcoming the fears all the time and just going. right?
Let me pause there if that's okay with you to kind of
Yeah.
peel the onion back a little bit with it, because if not,
Hmm.
I will completely lose my train of thought
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
I'll never get it back. Um, a lot of the times people think this healing process, awakening process, it's a
Hmm.
one time a wonderful spiritual or paranormal event that you go through and that you're enlightened and some sort of like exempt from emotions or
Right.
catastrophe or challenges like this. I can't even pronounce that, like romanticizing or whatever the idea
Hmm.
of that awakening process. And oh man, if anything, you feel all of it more. I feel you're more aware of everything and the ripple effects all of that stuff has not only on you but on other people. And you pretty much are confronted with the fact, I would say, that you have to take responsibility for your own shit, basically.
Yes.
So I love that you're transparent and open and not just completely woo woo and like, oh, my life is perfect. I got it all figured out. Like, shit, I still haven't figured shit out. Like, e-
I know.
every single day I wake up and I try to do the best I can and try to go with whatever comes at me that day and try to do my best,
Hmm.
with the tools that I have, right? With what I've learned. But thank you for being raw and open about it and your
Oh, of
process.
course.
I appreciate that because that's what really want to share with people. I want to be open and truthful as to all the shit that we all go through as a humanity. We are all going through it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hearing people's stories, the real ones and stuff,
Through, yeah.
you know, the people being vulnerable that actually helps other people because, you know, my story could help whomever hears it, whomever it resonates with, you know. And I'm not saying like my life was worse than anyone else's or anything like that. It's my own experience of it, right? And but if it can't help, then it will, right? So it's
Could you
just
tell
putting it
me a
out.
little bit about your like maybe childhood or growing up, or if you've been confronted with addiction or anything like that, like that you
Hmm.
kind of want to share to kind of give
Yeah,
us um an idea
yeah,
of your
yeah, absolutely.
trajectory.
So I grew up, and when I was a kid, my first memory of my father is actually him on top of my mother choking her. And I didn't remember that memory until probably 6 years ago or something. And then the second memory of him is like him getting the belt and stuff. And he left when I was 3 or 4 too. Like never saw him again after that too. You know. So and then my mom's just trying to be, not abused and be secure in herself. So like I had that anxiety, you know, growing up. And then my mom was not home often because she's out working this job, that job, you know, trying to find a man to support her as well. And so I observed a lot of that stuff, this dude, that dude, whatever, you know what I mean? And like I was over at my grandparents' house quite often, or I was home with my brother and we were by ourselves and we are just kids, you know, and a lot of raising of ourselves happened, right? Like, um, but it wasn't the worst thing ever. You learned how to, you know, make some food, make a sandwich, you know, do what you need to do to figure stuff out. But anyhow, eventually my mom ended up meeting my stepfather, and he's a major in the army, going through his own divorce at this time, and very strict, is frustrated because he's going through his own shit and everything. And so, and he's got 2 young kids of his own, right? Actually, a daughter who wasn't even one yet, when she came into our lives. But he came in, you know, wanted to change everything, right? Like not we were pretty wild, I would say. I mean, I wouldn't even say I was wild, I was just being a kid. You know what I mean? Not doing anything malicious or whatever in my mind. But what ended up happening within 6 months of knowing him and like how, he was terrifying, you know, um, he picked us up and moved us from, everything that we knew an hour plus away. And, you know, it did give us more opportunities for sure from where we did live, you know. But anyways, I was, straight A's prior to that. Then we moved, I'm getting C's, D's, and F's. I'm terrified to be at home. Like and then because you're getting C's, D's, and F's and he is who he is, like it's not good enough. And then I have a brother who's like, genius level, college level classes in high school, smart as well. So, anyways, you know, throughout that too, it's basically being, mentally abused, physically abused, all that stuff, isolated for literally months in my room at times. Um, you're just programmed to tell yourself that you're not worthy of love or, all of that, not worthy of many, many things, right? And so what you do is you search all over the place for it and you numb and you do all that. And when I was so I knew one of the things like to get approval, like no one in my family is athletic whatsoever, but I knew to get approval from him, like it was through that because he was all about sports and everything. So like that was my main focus and it really I excelled at it because my mind is already going 1,000 miles an hour, you know. But that stuff, I can keep up with all that. You know what I mean? Like
What
easily.
sports did you used to play, practice?
Football,
Nice.
baseball, basketball. Yeah, I ran track, you know, and yeah, but even through that, like I realized too, like I'm not even, yeah, it's healthy for me to do that stuff, but I'm not even doing it for me, you know. I'm doing it to like kind of stay safe, if that makes sense. And then throughout this entire time, when I started using drugs um, when I was 13, I want to say something like that. And then I was 14 the first time I did LSD. I mean, how many, you know what I mean? So it's like, and then I sold from, 15 till I was 24. And then, alcohol, drugs the entire time, you know, I was with the same, since I was 17, I was with the same girl for 19 years after that. Okay. But then even throughout that, like I'm still battling all my shit. You know what I mean? Still racing 1,000 miles an hour, still numbing all the time, still doing all that. Right. And it's because like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was so unaware, you know. And I've did talk to therapists, as an adult. I never had the opportunity when I was a kid, which would have been like a lot better, but it just wasn't the case. And yeah, you can hear something 1,000 times until it clicks, until you realize it,
Can
right?
we pause there for a moment?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I literally was just recording a course
Hmm.
and the last module before I got on here,
Hmm.
I just repeated that exact same sentence because it has happened to me over and over and over again.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I could be hearing the same thing for the past 10 years. But I have a conversation with you right now. It's like, boom.
Yep, I know what that means now. Yeah.
And
Yep.
even then, you have the awareness that there's layers and depth and you could revisit that same concept and just gain a brand new understanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry
Um,
to
no,
but
it's
I
totally fine.
really wanted to make a point of that
Yeah.
because it's no coincidence that I came up twice today.
Yeah, right, right. Yeah. Nothing is a coincidence at
Mm,
all.
mm-mm.
Um, but then where was I? So yeah, with the same woman, for 19 years. But even throughout that, like our marriage, started to go to shit, and I didn't know how to communicate because I was like had my voice taken away as a kid, you know, and so she's trying to communicate, because I mean it's proven that women are actually smarter than men. They have more,
You might get some fire for that.
it's actually it's a thing, but like um she's trying to communicate. I don't know how. I'm shutting down. I'm getting lit up you know what I mean, drunk and stuff, just numbing until it came to the point of like, I'm gonna lose my family, you know. And then I was just like, okay, like I don't want that, so I'm gonna quit, and I did, you know, just immediately. Didn't need any rehab or whatever, you know. Just knew I didn't want to lose that, but like even after I did that, I think that there was like a caretaker aspect from her. Once she didn't need to be my caretaker, then like it we even got more separated. Does that make sense? You know what I mean?
100% it makes sense. Yeah.
And um so yeah, then I like was seeking outside of the marriage. I successfully did numerous times and all this stuff. Once again, didn't know how to communicate. So I'm wearing all these masks that I've made right throughout my life. And they were out of necessity, you know. Um, but you just go through your life. You don't know what the fuck you're doing or anything. And I'm always in, survival mode and panicked and anxiety all the time. And I had no idea what life was like not living in anxiety. I had no clue, you know. Um, but now learning all the stuff that I've learned, I mean, I'm so thankful that I know this, the tools to get through to calm your body, the somatic work, all the stuff, like, and be able to teach it. It's, you know, to be able to allow people to live, fulfilled lives, the lives that they want to live. And literally, like, and because my whole thing too, like I said, I didn't have a voice, right? So that was a huge thing for me to overcome, period. And even saying what I needed to say, like, okay, so selling drugs, like, yeah, I was a fucking asshole to a lot of people. But like I found myself, with females, like treating them like even when they would do stupid shit. You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. Like, no, it's not okay. Like, I need to say, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, and
Yeah.
then like, so that's what it was like in the relationships following my divorce. You know what I mean? And but then I realized, hey, I'm the one attracting this stuff. Like it's me. Okay, I had this knowledge now, right? Now it's my job to fix. Okay, like I need to be the caretaker. I need to fix you. Like, so what is it inside of me that's attracting this, right? Well, it was my need to be needed, you know, and instead of loving myself, instead of needing myself, and because even knowing this stuff, like I said, you can say it 1,000 times. You can even teach this shit. You know what I mean? Until
Yep.
and you might not even know fully what it means, right? But you know all the right words and everything, and you understand how it all works and everything. But until like you realize it inside of yourself, you know, not that it's not valuable because it certainly is, but it's more valuable, you know, and more authentic when you actually, realize it inside of yourself,
Ah.
right?
So let's talk about authenticity and confidence because I feel, is that okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I feel like a lot of us were we were taking our voice away in some sense or
Hmm.
another. during childhood. A lot of us had a fear of being seen, being heard. Um, and a lot of us, whether it was through whatever circumstance, um, our confidence was shattered,
Yeah.
right? So I believe that this low self-worth and lack of authenticity, to name it something, is something that as a collective humanity, we have the opportunity once you start doing the work, just resit with that, relook at that, and embody your true essence and your true authenticity, which has always been there. But like you said, so many masks and so many things have
Hmm.
obscured that pureness
Yeah.
of that essence. So for a long time, I was looking to become that future version of me, that and empowered goddess version of
Yeah.
me outside of me, and it never worked because
Yeah.
it was out there, right? And once you tap into the core of who you are, you become completely unshakable.
Mm.
You become so grounded. You know yourself at such a deep level because you've sat with your darkness, with your light,
Hmm.
with a shadow. You've explored yourself, your wounds,
Hmm.
you're not running anymore. You're not numbing anymore. You're not bypassing anymore. You're sitting with all of it. You're exploring. You're doing introspection. You're breaking it down. And there comes a point where you become who you've always been. If it doesn't make any sense, just forget it because Spanish is my first language. But you've always been that powerful being, authentic
Hmm.
being. Is like if you had mud covering you and you're just like peeling all the stuff and you're allowing your light, right, to shine out of your heart and your
Yeah.
voice to be heard. And I feel as a collective, a lot of us are going through that right now. And it's a process,
Hmm.
until my last breath, that I am remembering who the fuck I am.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly right. It's just remembering how powerful you actually are, you know?
Yeah, but not from an ego standpoint
No.
where, right, is just reclaiming your sovereignty, your birthright, like
Hmm.
you know what I mean?
I do.
Um, I know you do. I know that you know that I know that we know that you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you had issues with that, with authenticity, confidence, kind of like
Oh shit, let me tell you about that. So,
go for it.
I mean, absolutely. So there was, so the awakening process never really stops. You're just constantly learning more. And you're only awakening to yourself the entire time, And so I'm going through this you know, the divorce, all that stuff. And then, it takes a long time to get over that, first of all, right? And and so I'm learning all these spiritual teachings. Like, I mean, I'm in it, you know, like and stuff. And I'm like, the one who resonated with me the most was Wayne Dyer. Okay. And so, I mean, I read all the books, listened to all the, videos on YouTube, all the stuff. And I'm just like, man, he seems so peaceful. Like that's how I have to be. And like I said before, the relationships that I was in and stuff, like, oh, it's okay. And like understand. Yeah, I understand, but like you can also say like and be assertive. Being assertive is okay. You know, you don't have to be an asshole, but you can be assertive and you can still understand why they're doing what they're doing or whatever, you know. But you can also have boundaries, right? And I didn't have them in many cases, you know. And so, and here I am, the imposter syndrome thing too. And I'm like, oh, like I'm going through this in my own life. So how the hell can I teach this? Like I'm like kind of doing the opposite of what I'm teaching. So like, does that make it less authentic? Whatever. It's like, no, it doesn't, Like we all struggle, we all go through things, you know. Even, Wayne Dyer himself had been divorced twice and all the stuff. So, I mean, it's like, you know,
Can we pause there? Is that, would it be
yeah,
okay? Okay.
yeah,
So I'm currently, it has to do with what you said. Don't worry. I'm not gonna
yeah, yeah.
necessarily make it about me, but I have to give the example.
Hmm.
So I am working with a sponsor to work over a food addiction. Because I have tried to lose weight since 2020. I never had an issue with weight until 2020, and then everything shifted for me. And then
Okay.
I've just had issues with that. And I've tried many times to change my habits with food and my relationship with food.
Hmm.
And I just haven't been able to. And he is a very, very special friend, Dan. Um, and he helps people with any kind of addiction. But he had never helped anyone with food addiction. And we're still doing the 12-step process, like Alcoholic Anonymous process, the
Yeah,
12
yeah, yeah, yeah.
steps. Um, and in the book, one of the beautiful thing is that the person that a lot of people felt that helped them the most was another alcoholic.
Hmm.
So you're
Yes.
trying to teach the stuff, but a lot of the times you see yourself reflected in the teacher, and you see the teachers reflected on the student, right? Because
Absolutely.
we are walking the path together, you know. It's like
Hmm.
you walk through the fire. It doesn't mean you're exempt from walking to the next fire. It's just one
No.
of them, one of the infinite fires.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I already walked through that one. If you want, I could lend you a hand. I could walk with you. Um, and a lot of the times that accountability and that relationship that is built with someone that is going through divorce, for example.
Hmm.
I mean, you're coaching for someone that's going through divorce right now. It's like gold.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in it with you. We're
Yeah.
getting through this together. Um, so thank you for bringing that up in regards to coaching, because a lot of that's real coaching, in my
Hmm.
opinion. You
Yeah.
know, standing up at a pedestal saying you're a guru, your life is perfect, you have it all figured out, come learn from me. Bullshit.
Right.
I'm so sick of it.
Right.
You know, I respect your knowledge, all of that stuff, because we all have a lot of beautiful things to share with the world, but no one could tell you how to live your life or what you need to do, when you need to do it, how you need to do it better than you, better than your soul, better than the information that is within you. There is no
Hmm.
coach that can tell you that.
Right.
We can give you tons of resources and many things that can help you in the journey. You've helped me. I have helped you in other ways.
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like it has been reciprocal.
Yes.
Um, but ultimately, it comes down to us.
We are our own best guides all the time. You know,
Yeah.
it's just
And it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to ask
hmm.
for support. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yep. And that's the hardest, like, going through this process, right? In any process that is difficult, like life-changing stuff, like where you need to make some changes, you know, um, because the same shit keeps happening over and over again because you're not doing anything, to change. So the hardest thing to do is like look in the mirror and own your shit. Like what did I do here? You know what I mean? And then like once you do that, like you're very honest with yourself and you're very honest with whomever was affected by it, you know. Like it's very easy to release. And then it's easy to recognize stuff even coming, in the future. Like you can, hey, I've done this before, I can do this again. Like I'm not perfect. I'm not expecting to be perfect, but like I can openly talk about this stuff and own my stuff and, you know, realize how that's affecting other people as well and talk to them about it, you know.
100%. I love the way you put it. Tell me a little bit about what you do now, how you help people, like what your coaching looks like, whatever you want to share, and how people could find you also.
Yeah. So my coaching is really staying in alignment, alignment coaching. And it's just recognizing these things within inside of yourself, you know. That's what it is. It's always about how you feel. Don't do shit you don't want to do. Like
Sounds simple, but not so
I
simple.
know I know, right? And that is actually you stepping into your authentic self as well, staying in alignment, right? Because when we're not authentic, that's when all this other shit happens, right? Where we allow the stuff to occur, but we're not even conscious of it very often, you know? And it's this balance within inside of ourselves. When we fill our own cup and we're fulfilled on our own, that is when we can truly give to the other people. That's when it's real, and it's not from a place of lack or codependency or whatever, you know, it is. But it's that is what I do. I help people fully realize themselves, you know. Yes.
Sounds wonderful.
Hmm.
And it's
And
easier if we do it together. It's
hmm
harder than we do it alone. I know it kind of almost feels like I contradict the go within versus the seeking for help, but it actually goes hand in hand.
hmm
Um, because you seek for help, you go within. You seek for help, you go within, right? It's
yeah,
a an ebb and flow. It's a constant expansion, right? So
absolutely.
we're gonna do, if you're open to it, the part two of this interview,
Yeah,
as a free masterclass. So,
sure.
guys, if you wanna get in touch with, and how can they get in touch with
Oh
you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. My spiritualpathcoaching.com, or my Instagram is Judd_Fink. Um, my email is jfink@spiritualpathcoaching.com. Those are the ways you can get a hold of me.
All
But
right, sounds wonderful. We're gonna put it in the description below as well, so they can just click it and go right to it as well. All right, so stay tuned, guys. Go check out the masterclass, and you have somebody here beautiful. I've worked with him. He is an honest soul, very transparent, beautiful energy as well. So if you're just listening to this, I would encourage go check out the video so you can kind of put a face to the name and kind of check it out as well. And go from there. If it resonates, give him a call or whatever and start working with somebody that resonates with you, right? We don't have to do it
yeah,
alone. Well, thank you so much. It's an honor to have you on the podcast, and
yes, thank you.
let's jump on to part two.
Okay, let's go.